What's your worst forever alone moment? I think my worst FA moment was my 9th birthday party. My parents took me to a local place, and I had invited everyone in my grade, hoping that people would come to play laser tag and whatnot. In the end, only one kid showed up, and even then, he left to go play with some other kids he saw there that he knew. Not even my best friend showed up. We left after about 25 minutes. I went home, and my dad told me to get over it, and that it was just a birthday party. Needless to say, I cried myself to sleep that night. It's hard to think of anything more painful than throwing a party and no one showing up. My parents did that once. Ouch. I was putting together a new computer and I figured I could save some money by not buying speakers, because I could just use headphones and it's not like I was ever going to have anyone else in my room. I used that computer for 2 years. I was right. I have 3 Xbox controllers just in case I have company. I have only used one so far. One time in high school I was on a school trip with the marching band. One morning when I had some free time I was wandering around the hotel and I couldn't find any of my friends. On the last door I tried, my friend Brad cracked open the door, obviously dressed in only boxers. He said they were playing strip poker with some girls, and he would see if I could join. Brad called back into the room, "Hey, is it okay if Jeff joins us?" The next thing you heard was a resounding chorus of female voices. No. Brad turned back to me, said, "Sorry man," and closed the door. This one brought back a bad memory. I went to a sleepover in 5th grade to watch WrestleMania. There was a couple girls that stayed over too that lived in the area. The girls made me sit out as they played spin the bottle. It was awful. Forgot about that until now. LOL. Eating food from 7-Eleven all by myself on Thanksgiving. I did this once. I flew to Massachusetts to see in my GF at the time and propose on Thanksgiving. Proposed. Got shot down and she broke up with me. I spent that Thanksgiving eating a sandwich and soda I bought from the gas station across the street from the Best Western stayed at. When I was a kid I had no friends and I had this idea that if I brought a football to school then I could play with some friends. During lunch, I went to my bag and found that the football had been stolen out of it. Some kids were playing with it and I watched them play and I was too shy to say anything and they looked kinda mean. Then a teacher walked by and I wanted to tell them that they took my football but I thought what's the point? I wasn't using it anyway. Then I just hid in some bushes and cried. Somehow, even with all of the other worse ones, this one, it hurt. I understand the feeling dude. I'm sorry. Bro hug. I was sitting in my 3rd grade classroom one day when the school's principal came in and called out all the girls in the class. It was weird, to be sure. So, we're all lined up in the hall and the principal starts talking about how rude it was to invite every girl in the class but one to a birthday party. Becky was so upset she wasn't invited to the birthday party that she was refusing to come out of her room. Funny thing, though, I wasn't invited to the party either. In fact, up until I was standing in that line being reprimanded, I didn't even know there'd been a party. Wow, your principal handled things like an idiot. 3 years ago, 3 days before Christmas, I called my dad to ask about family plans for Christmas. He informed me that he, along with my entire family, was on a cruise ship off the coast of Florida. Everyone but me was invited. I spent Christmas alone at a Chinese buffet. I was the only one in there not working. I got food poisoning and spent the next 48 hours puking and crapping, simultaneously at some moments. The whole time they were on the cruise, my dad was posting photos of the entire vacation on Facebook. Forever alone. This reminds me of something I once read in The Atlantic. The author had been shopping at a garage sale while in college and he found a stack of dinner plates with the top one showing visible signs of wear, and the rest brand new. He thought it was the saddest thing he'd ever seen, and made a mental note that when he moved into his own place and bought new dishes, he would remember to rotate through them so that he wouldn't leave behind such depressing evidence of his bachelorhood. Then he couldn't decide which was more depressing, the plates or the strategy he just devised. Luckily I'm too filthy to do the dishes, so I don't wash them until I've used every single plate. Take that, society. Sweet, my cell phone's battery lasts for 4-5 days without a recharge. Oh wait, That's because I never get any calls. Back in high school, I was always shocked when people would have to charge their phone every night. I never understood how my phone could get almost a week out of a single charge. I think I was maybe 19 or 20 at the time, and I had just purchased a Sega Dreamcast, and I picked up a second controller because it was on sale. When I got home, my father saw what I had bought and got mad at me for wasting money. Not because I had bought a Sega Dreamcast, mind you. Let's not go there, but because I had bought a second controller. He said to me as I took it out of the bag, "When the heck are you ever going to need that?" Had to cancel a dental appointment to get a molar extracted because they said I'd need someone to drive me there, stay for the procedure, and drive me home. Now looking for an oral surgeon within walking stumbling distance. Strange uses for a female escort. I feel the worst whenever I ask someone out for a date and they never show up. Happens way too often to me. I just don't understand why they didn't just say no in the first place. I feel so stupid sitting at a cafe or restaurant by myself waiting for someone who would never show up. A classic case of forever alone. Some people have no manners. Frick them. Wake up every morning at 0600. Make myself breakfast. Go to work. The only human interaction is at work. No one at work invites me to their dinners, parties, after work drinks. Get back home and it's nothing but books, and places like here. Once a week go out and have dinner by myself. Once a month get on a plane and go to a different country all by myself. Sit in some strange hotel room and watch CNN plus drink. You should take lots of pictures and start a travel blog. I occasionally go to Five Guys for a burger after work. Their main dining area is packed with big tables that fit for 6 people. If you go when they're busy, you look like a jerk sitting at a huge table by yourself while groups of people have to wait for a seat. They offer small 2-people tables, only they shoved them in a creepy dimly lit hallway between the soda fountain and the bathrooms. It's really narrow too. When I go I end up sitting there by myself, sadly watching all the couples and happy groups laughing and eating in the bright, open dining area. Occasionally someone will walk by and give me a look like I'm a leper or something. 5 Guys, 0 friends. Imagine my luck when I went to my local Five Guys and there was a 2-person table but with 1 chair because the other end was butted against the stack of potato sacks. Then it looked like I was sharing my meal with sacks of potatoes. Forever alone with potatoes. I was in a low period of my life. I got into college and disliked the majority of my classes. I lived in a dorm with a bunch of people I disliked and who disliked me in return. I had no friends nearby. I began playing a game of how long I could go without saying a word to anybody. My record was 4 days. The streak was snapped with a call from mother. A number of times I've unintentionally gone without speaking for a while. Then someone comes along and makes conversation and all that comes out of my mouth is one of those weird inhumane noises your voice can randomly make. Hello. ER. I moved to a new city and didn't know anyone. Feeling especially forever alone, I manned up and got over my crippling social anxiety just long enough to ask someone out for Valentine's Day. I suggested an expensive, romantic restaurant. She enthusiastically agreed. I sat alone at the table, watching all of the happy couples around me for over an hour before letting myself accept the fact that I had been stood up. Hey, what's a good place to go for Valentine's Day? Restaurant. Cool. Go with me. Okay. Anytime I've gone from sober to S-faced without sharing a word or glance with another human being, I call those days weekdays. Had a lazy eye and crap loads of acne when I was 10. Got the nickname retarded Mexican because of my prepubescent mustache. Went out of my way to be nice to everyone. Always sat alone at lunch. Didn't know why everyone hated me. Severely depressed. Cried constantly. Alone for 6 years. Then I got better. That's rough, bro. I would have called you remix if that's any better. No one calls me. I have to call them. They seem to enjoy themselves when we're hanging out. It's always been like this. And I don't get it. I'm good at arguing against myself feeling this way within myself and I am able to rationalize quite well. But it is only temporary and soon I feel empty again. Part of me wants to just give it up, but I know I'd just more lonely and miserable. Getting all excited about a whole bunch of views on my Flickr account until I realized I'd been viewing my own photos earlier with my work VPN on. I choked on a piece of popcorn once while having a movie party by myself on a Saturday night. I was seconds away from passing out when I finally dislodged it. After I caught my breath, I sat on the floor and cried for having narrowly escaped a death that could have been prevented with something as small as some human company. I had never felt so alone in my life. And then I realized that even if I had been able to call a friend to come and help me, I didn't have anyone to call. I cried myself to sleep right there on the floor in my living room. When I woke up, the movie was still paused, and the room, torn apart by my choking struggle, was littered with popcorn. So I cleaned up the mess by myself, turned off the TV and went to bed alone. This was just a few weeks ago. Lived by myself in a one-bedroom apartment. When other people in my department at work would go on vacation, I'd sit in an empty office building by myself with no one to pretend to talk to for weeks on end. I've gone entire months without saying more than 3 words to a living being that wasn't a passing hey in the hall. One time for a few weeks while I was very sick with the flu and exhausted, hopped up on PM style meds. I fell asleep in the restroom hanging onto the side of the bathtub and stayed there for around 18 hours, drifting in and out of consciousness. I got no calls, no visits, which was the norm but was particularly depressing. I actually felt like I forgot how to form words with my mouth. During those days I lived in wow. Reminds me of the time I realized that if I died on a Friday after I dropped my daughter off, no one would know until I didn't show up to get her food on a Monday night. I went to a Reddit meetup, even made some potato salad and a cheesecake, but when I got to the park no one else showed. Mixed vodka, whiskey and Ambien in an attempt to never wake up again. Woke up about 30 plus hours later covered in puke and pee. To this day no one knows. I moved about 8 months ago and bought an IKEA bed frame. It's still in its box at the base of my mattress on the floor because it takes 2 to assemble. I see it every day when I wake up and think that I'm forever alone. When I was 12, we got a computer. That was pretty much the end for me. Been at the hospital a couple days now. No visitors. Forever alone. It's midday, Saturday, and the doctor just informed me that they misread the screenings and that there isn't actually a sludge buildup in my gallbladder, but that my pancreatitis is still definite. Not sure what's to happen from here, but I want to thank Reddit from the depths of my essence for the encouragement and kindness shown. A Redditor, Amy, from Orlando, FL, called to wish me well, and if you're reading this, Amy, thank you so very much. Hearing a friendly voice warmed my spirits a great deal. Reddit. I can say with confidence that though there was no physical visitation, I have never felt less forever alone than I do now. To the Redditors who reached out, you are my heroes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. : 1 adult ticket to High School Musical 3, please. Good God. I have spent New Year's alone for at least the last 6 years. Beat that. 21 first and 22 second birthday alone. I hear my cat will be available for my 23. Keeping my fingers crossed. I got so many sweet messages telling me their sad and awesomely pathetic stories of life. Really makes a man feel optimistic and not so alone. I'm so serious. And my cat said she is cancelling all her meeting and appointments just for me. I'm 26 and I've never had a romantic relationship. I was 19 when I met my first female friend. I'm 24 and I've never had a romantic relationship, but I have no friends at all. At some point when I was in college years ago now, having gotten tired of my mother asking me about who I was dating, to which the inevitable answer was, I wasn't. I attempted to explain my forever aloneness to her. She thought I was trying to come out of the closet and I got an extremely awkward "I still love you even though you're gay" speech. If it's any inspiration to the FA types here, I'm now a successful and happily married adult. At that age, didn't seem like it would ever happen. A couple months after my GF cheated on me, I went away to school after we broke up, partly because of what happened, needing to get away from my old life. While away at school living in the dorms, I bought a bottle of old times whiskey, went into my room, alone, in the dark, and watched wedding videos on YouTube, like cool proposals and dances at the reception and stuff. I then began to bawl my eyes out for like 2 or 3 hours. Anyway, it was actually very cathartic, even though it wasn't until months after that I really got over it. Being cheated on sucks. Or when I spent Christmas alone in Europe without anyone to talk to, getting drunk at a hostel bar while other groups of people were having what I assumed to be awesome conversations, though I couldn't understand them. Then I drank until I passed out and my mom called to say Merry Christmas, but I was sleeping and missed the call. By the time I woke up it was like 5 AM back in the States, so I listened to the voicemail. She was like, "You're probably having such a good time that you didn't even hear your phone go off and crap. Frick, just writing this makes me want to cry." Her voice had like this proud sadness to it. Even though she couldn't talk to me on Christmas, she knew I was out, alone, in Europe, and she wanted me to have a good time and be adventurous. But I could just hear in her voice that she wished I'd been bored just so I could talk to her. Well, I'm 21 and still never been on a real date, kissed a girl, while almost all the friends around me are in starting relationships. And the girl I was interested in just recently started dating an old high school friend of mine who just happens to go to the same college as I do. But I imagine there is enough of that sort of single depression going on here. So a story of encouragement. I have twice really wanted to see a concert in New York City about an hour away from me, and could not find a single friend able to go with me. Both times, I went to the city by myself, feeling lonely and sad, but ended up seeing a great show, meeting awesome fans as well as the bands themselves. Both bands, Tally Hall and the Cat Empire, put on amazing shows that really brightened my mood. Point being, sometimes you can make a FA story a fun and enjoyable one if you really want to. TLDR, I'm forever alone, but I can still make lonely trips into awesome fun ones. Every time I make eye contact with my reflection whilst jacking off. Don't look away, you will see that as weakness. A girl I was madly in love with decided to bring along her boyfriend on one of our dates. I had no idea she had a boyfriend. The drive home, which should have taken half an hour, took about 2 hours. I kept having to pull over because I was crying so hard I couldn't see. Right now, I'm not the only one to have done this, so it's not exactly original, but for the last 6 months I've been living in my office at work. It takes two to tango, so I won't disparage my soon-to-be ex-spouse. But there were some very good reasons as to why I could no longer stay there. I haven't pulled finances for the sake of my kids' well-being, so they are all currently living in the house while I do the best I can from here as the divorce process moves along. I do see them, take them out, play with them and let them know I love them, even though I think they are being told otherwise. I have food, I have a microwave, I have a bed, and a place nearby that I can shower. That's a lot more than most people have. The hardest part is having to go dark after everyone goes home, to be quiet, and try to keep busy, which I do with Reddit, exercise and reading. I miss having a home and a family to go to. I miss having my kids run to the door to see me. I keep strong knowing that once I'm through this, I'll be in a better position to make and keep a happy household. Updated. Thanks Redditors. Something snapped in me reading all of these replies. I realized I wasn't taking care of myself and putting my interests forward for the betterment of my family. I've since reached out to a nearby friend. We'll have a room in his house this evening and for as long as I need to get through this process. I will also reconvene with my lawyers early next week to work to reverse and or mitigate any damage I've done and put myself on a more even footing. Being alone, not having people to bounce things off of, you tend to get tunnel vision. As a lot, Redditors are the most vicious, but most caring group of people. Really, depends on what side you fall on. Thanks again. Hang in there, boss. Didn't have a lot of time for lunch one day while I was out doing errands, but there was a sit-down burger place on the way to the UPS store that I had been craving for a while, so I ducked in there. Didn't try to find anyone to meet up with, but I did take a book in to look at that I happened to have in my car at the time. It was about networking tips. 10 minutes later I had the sudden realization I was very visibly reading Keith Ferrazzi's Never Eat Alone while eating at a public restaurant. It's been years since my grandmother stopped asking me if I've found that special someone. Even she thinks I have no hope. No, she probably is a decent grandma and doesn't want to put too much pressure on you. I drove to a parking lot a couple blocks away from my house just to make it appear to my mom like I was going out to hang with friends. I ended up sitting in my dark car for a couple hours eating candy, without even music for fear of the car battery running out. 2 kids from my high school pulled up and parked next to me to smoke. They saw me sitting there as I awkwardly waved and shoved candy in my mouth, so it seemed like I was busy and couldn't talk to them. Every day, though it was so bad at one point that I thought about driving myself into the river on a daily basis. Now I've come to accept my FA, lost weight, have a couple of friends, and my job has improved, so the suicidal thoughts are gone for now. Going to movies all by myself. It was pretty relaxing actually. No joke, I prefer going to the cinema solo. I was eating a sandwich at my old apartment at the dinner table on a Saturday night. No one was home and the apartment was silent. My roommate comes home, looks in the dining room and says, "Why are you eating by yourself in the dark forever alone?" Forever alone in the dark. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.